Hey everybody, hey Mena fans, welcome back to Mena Fandom. I'm Menas, of course. I'm joined by my regular co-host Red, who I gave him the job and then he wanted a week off straight after. Red, how are you?
Well, I needed to take a week or so to roam through, go on a hike with my wife and see some things. So I thank you for giving me that time off. I appreciate that.
Best boss in the business, best leader in podcasting. And we've got a special guest. This is requested by Red, Justin from the Justin Show. Justin, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Menas. It's a pleasure.
It's great to have you here. We've got a lot to get through. We've got taking care of business. Red and I are going to sum up the year. But Red, look, you wanted to get Justin on. Anybody that's listened to this show knows that I'm pretty unhappy with the big lug. But Red, take it away. You can run this segment because
fantastic! Thank you. I've come so. There's a couple things I want to do. I do want to celebrate Justin's show. I do have some questions on that. I have some questions on.
First things first. Before we get to celebrating, can I just say R.I.P. John Madden before we celebrate anything?
R.I.P. John Madden. No, thank you.
R.I.P. John Madden.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he was a great broadcaster.
Save this shit for your fucking own show, Justin.
I just thought it would be nice, but that's fine.
That was very nice.
Do you think if someone listens to this in 2 weeks, they're going to care about we recorded just after John Madden died?
Are you going to let me quarterback this thing or what?
All right, come on.
All right, okay. So I do want to get to all those things, and I know that Menners has some questions for you, but please, if we can address this right off the top, what do I have to do, Justin, to get you to unblock Menners, and what do I have to do, Menners, to get you to unblock Justin? How can we make sure we guys can at least see each other's tweets? I don't like this frosty relationship. So, Justin, is there anything we can do to mend this relationship?
I don't think I have a bad relationship with Menners. I just think it's better just to not see his stuff on my profile. I mean,
can you tell me why? Because we've worked together for a while on some Menners Live.
That's weird. That's like it's things like that where it's like we work together. Menners, we've never worked together.
You did 50. You produced 25 Menners Live for me.
Yeah, but I mean,
I don't mean like work. It's not like we had a job together. I'm not, but I think it's strange that you blocked me when I criticized you for doing a 6-minute reaction show. I mean, what are you, a big fucking pussy? I mean, I'm obviously, I don't go for any real personal shit with you. Have I ever criticized your actual abject failure as an intern? I mean, not many people fail as interns, but you did. I mean, I've never gone that way, and yet you block me because I criticized you and Carl for doing shitty wrap-up shows. I mean, it's pathetic.
I think the reason I'm trying to remember the reason why I blocked you. I think it was.
I'm telling you, it's because of that.
Vibes? Was it bad?
No, because you were doing 6-minute wrap-up shows, and I said,
okay,
can't you do more than
Menners,
that?
That was
yes.
Devil's advocate. He did this to put you on ice, to cool you out. You were getting a little crazy on Twitter. He was eventually going to unblock you, and then you just went off and went.
I mean, it doesn't sound like he's
kept you blocked this whole time.
What was that?
Go ahead, Justin.
I said it doesn't sound like he's cooled down. I think. Oh, that's right. I said he needed a timeout.
Yes, you needed to put him on timeout. You did. He was going to unblock you. So what I say is after the show, we shake hands and then you guys unblock each other and we're good. Right.
So I've actually unblocked Justin. I did that maybe a week ago when you wanted to get him on this show. I just don't see the resentment, Justin, because I know it can be annoying maybe, but
I just think it's I don't know. I think your reaction right now is funny. It's like, who gives a shit that you're blocked by me? I mean,
I mean, you're right. I don't lose any sleep over. I mean, if I never see another bit of content you do again, it will be too soon. So, look, I don't know if that came out right, that analogy, but you can translate it. You know what I mean? I've never listened to one bit of the Justin Show. I think you're a nice kid, but I don't understand why you would block me when you were intern for the show. Now it doesn't matter. I mean, you're going to be anyway. You could be dead in 6 months.
Well, before we move on, Justin, do you have any last words on this topic? I wanted to move on to other things.
I don't know. I mean, it sounds like if I originally put Menners in timeout, I mean, it sounds like he still needs to be in timeout.
All right, forget it. Whatever. I mean, I'm not going to lose sleep over being blocked by some fat piece of shit.
Hold on. Okay, we don't
state
need to go
of wherever you live.
Unbelievable. Okay,
so next thing, can I just say something, Red, before before
Okay.
I go. Justin, Red made me think about this year, and all I can say to you is it's amazing how you fucked up 2021. You started with Kirk Minahan offering you a job for life, and somehow a few months later you'd fucked that up. So, you should be thinking about what you've been doing this year and not blocking fucking people like me.
Oh, wow.
Do you think the reason I left the show is because I blocked people like you?
No, I didn't say that.
Well, I'm going to tell you, like, I wasn't putting much thought into blocking you. I just kind of blocked you.
Fair enough. Whatever.
Did you have me
Fair,
on
whatever.
to ask? Like,
Okay, we're gonna move on a little bit here, but to build off of that, let's build off of that. What I think was a good question, Menners. Justin, you faced criticism,
of course,
from your time with KMS, but you started off this year. I'm going to disagree with you, Menners. Started off this year very good in studio, had good moments. I think
Julie DeCaro was a great moment. I mean, it was a great moment. And how did you fuck it up, Justin?
No, but
how did you fuck it up from there?
I started blocking international Minifans, I guess. That's when it all
Kirk
started.
Almost gave you his last name. You were almost Justin Minahan. And now you're Justin on the Justin show with some moron.
Well, hold on. I think that Justin show actually has potential, and we'll talk about that. We'll get there, okay? But again, Justin was great, I think, when Cullinane was brought in, and then Justin was in studio with Kirk and the guys. I think that was a great part of KMS. I miss that. I hope it comes back, hopefully, in the future. Are you going to be? But hold on, Justin, are you cleaning the bathrooms right now currently?
So this is kind of, so I reached out to Dave a couple weeks ago and I was like, hey, just so you know, like, let me know a good time when I can come in and, clean the bathrooms. And he just said, all set. And I said, whoa, what do you mean by all set? He said, you don't have to worry about doing the bathrooms. And I was like, listen, I was like, don't you take this away from me. Like, don't you fucking take the bathrooms away from me. And he's like, I got it. So I don't know if I
can't take a hint, can you, man? They don't want you anywhere near that fucking studio.
He did a great job in that studio with that bathroom. I want to say that. So I was hoping maybe that door was still open too. I don't know.
I think that was a Dave decision though. I think if it was up to Kirk, I'd still be cleaning the bathrooms.
Okay. See, this is what we're breaking news here, Menners. This is what I wanted. I wanted breaking KMS news. More than likely, Cullinane acted alone and had Justin kicked out of the studio. See what we're doing here? This is great podcasting right here.
I don't think so. I think Kirk regretted opening the door for Justin a little bit on air, and he's turned the mic off and said to Cullinane, "We're all set with Justin."
Do you think that's why Kirk last week said he's going to name part of the studio the Justin Trudell Studios?
He's back in the
and
good
said
graces.
that I'm whenever I'm available, I can come in and use it.
He had a phenomenal call with Chris as well. I mean, Justin is on a little bit of a heater here, Menners. You need to admit that. I mean, come on.
I did enjoy the Spider-Man line. I got to say, it made me laugh.
See, he's on.
I've never hated Justin. I'm just like, I don't understand why he would block me. And now there's some resentment there, some anger.
I feel it.
Obviously, he's a talentless fuck, but whatever.
Well, I
reckon there's audio of me saying you should do a Star Wars podcast. So I'm thrilled you're switching up to doing a Boba Fett podcast.
Here we go.
I've even got, it's audio only, but I've got my Mandalorian mug for this recording because I'm a massive Star Wars fan. I'm waiting for Boba Fett. It's going to be 2 hours here. We're going to be watching it.
Look at that.
Look at that.
He's playing video game.
Playing
All
Fortnite.
right, so Justin, is this going to be is this going to be a brand new podcast, or is this going to be a part of the Justin show? How are you going to set this up for a podcast?
So as of right now, it's going to be a weekly thing that I will be doing just on the Justin Show YouTube. If it picks up some interest, I will be putting it out in like audio podcast form.
You should do that anyway. Why not? Just spread your wings.
Yes.
Just put it out on the same feed. Trust me.
Yes.
What's the point of putting walls up?
No. The Justin Show is staying the Justin Show. There will not be any bonus content on.
So you're actually costing yourself a listener because I haven't been able to find it because I'm blocked. So I'm like, well, you put in the Justin Show in Apple Podcasts, you get like 50 other more talented Justins
you put in the Justin Show on Apple Podcasts, and it's a big picture of me smiling.
Well, it doesn't happen on the Australian Apple Podcast.
I don't know what other
50 other Australian Justins.
Nope.
More interesting.
If you put in the Justin Show anywhere, you get my bright smiling face. You also get a podcast of some guy whose profile picture is a cat, and it's him talking about how he's going to like solve the world issues for like a minute.
Anyway, you've just let your ego get out of control. The fact that you would name the show the Justin Show is incredible. I think a Star Wars podcast is much better for you. No one wants to hear you talk about anything, but I wouldn't mind hearing you talk about Boba Fett.
Okay, but hold on. I've got an idea. I'm an ideas guy. Justin, can I put this out to you? Have you listened to that podcast on The Ringer called Binge Mode?
I've never listened to a single Ringer podcast.
Okay. If you want to do a little bit of research on what your podcast I think could do, but do better, is something Binge Mode does, which they do. They'll do a deep dive into a bunch of different things, not just Star Wars, but they do Star Wars and then they kind of build through the universe. They go through every multiverse you can go through. And I think you have a passion for that. What I'm saying is I think you could really build something that's going to fit your style, your comedy. You could start it with Star Wars, but I'd say don't be in a rush to just close on Star Wars, because I think you could do a lot of different things, whether it's Marvel, Disney, whatever it is. I think there's a lot of IPs.
Yeah, I'm sure there's like 300 people who are going to listen to his stupid show, and that's going to be it. So good luck with that. Good luck with that future. So let's go through the 2021. Let's go through the 2021 fuck ups. Swinging Dick Justin with Chris on the phone. Let's go. All right, All in the Minna family, axing that. Good fucking big fuck up. Madawaska one.
That was a great move.
Madawaska one, just going, I can't do anything.
Stand by it.
Carano, you take over. Even though I pitch myself as someone who can do live events, Carano, you saved the day. That was a minor fuck up compared to what's coming. And then, Socko just needs some mental time just before the event and cost my boss 30,000 or 29K. I mean, Red, you have some questions about this 29K. Well, he's the host of the Justin Show, this fucking fantastic podcast.
It's a great podcast. Thank you.
Let's talk. How big a fuck up was the 29K? And then he blames Dustin.
Hold on. But this is where Justin is a stand-up guy, is a team guy. He took the hit. He took the dive. I was listening to it, Justin. Now that you are away from KMS, there's got to be something there that you're kind of holding back on Dustin, because it sounded like when you were talking about it, that Dustin in the DMs, he's got to take more ownership for how the 29K thing came down. Is there any truth to what I'm saying here? You haven't told me anything, but I just get that read on you. Like something going on there.
I talked to him plenty of times, messages saying about how when I originally talked to him, I said, listen, we're not going to be able to pay you like Madawaska. It's not going to be we pay for it and then you feed the people sort of thing. It's going to be you sell food there. And he was like, of course. I talked to him multiple occasions. I talked to him a couple days before I left for my mental health break. And I think he saw that, the reins were passed to someone else, and he just decided to take advantage of it. It sucks that, I take full responsibility for it, but no, I do think he was definitely pulling some fuckery there.
See?
Huh? No way Chris Klemmer would do that. He's on a much higher level.
Look at what we did here, Manners. We are breaking news here.
There's no news there. There's no news there. You've got two morons, Dustin and Justin, messaging each other. Dustin, who doesn't know how to run a business, because you don't bill someone 30K without giving them an estimate, and Justin, who's probably just rolling from fucking one episode to another. I'm talking about mental episode. I think we've been through 29K. We know that there's a lot of people at fault.
Well, I think we do. I think we've accomplished a lot here, Justin. I'm looking forward to the Justin Show. I'm looking forward to the Star Wars part. I don't think you should just do it on YouTube. I agree with Menners. You should do it on the podcast. I know you'll have a lot of people looking forward to it. I think we've accomplished a lot here, guys. I think this is a budding relationship I see in front of me. I'm good on this. Menor, do you have any last word before we let Justin?
Yeah, Justin, I want to hopefully we can get to a good spot. You and I, you're a good kid, and I'll make you a deal. If you unblock me, I've already unblocked you. I'm pretty sure. Okay. I will do a weekly segment where I review your review of the Boba Fett series. All right, so I'll be reviewing your review of the show every week if you want to unblock me. Okay?
I'm so confused, Menners. So you come on here, you call me like a talentless hack. I have nothing going on. No one's going to listen to the Justin Show. And then you're like, you know what I'm going to do? If you interact with me more, if you continue to,
I said unblock. I said unblock.
Well,
it's a principal thing now.
Yeah.
Well, can I like mute you?
You can do whatever you want. You can mute me.
So can I
whatever
block
you want.
I
if I wanna
advise
block
that honestly. Is probably
If you unblock me, I'm going to do a weekly segment. Red and I will spend 5 or 10 minutes reviewing your review of the Boba Fett series.
I would love to do that.
That sounds terrible.
All right,
What?
whatever. Okay.
No.
Okay. See you. Bye. Fuck off.
Love you. Oh,
Justin's gone. He's bounced out. I mean, what a loser.
You really,
Bye, Justin.
You really sabotaged that entire interview, Manners. You really did. You just came in. You were not going to be kind at all. I invited this guy in here, and you just tried to destroy him right there. And good for him. He fought back. He had a smile on his face.
I lost my mind. I got to say, I had KMS demented syndrome or whatever it is. Just get on air and lost in my head again. I'm sorry.
You were an animal. You're a Tasmanian devil on that thing.
Like
that was crazy.
Like 17 minutes ago, before I came on this, I was half asleep, and a few minutes later, I'm screaming at poor Justin.
Justin, man, that's unbelievable.
Anyway, hope he doesn't kill himself. All righty, let's get into the main show. TCB,
Please.
taking care of business. So firstly, since the yesterday's show, VD has blocked me, and I think this is for the best. VD and I just have a toxic relationship. He triggers me in the DMs, sending me suggestions like get Tony Cass on the show. Honestly, I would rather blow my brains out than ever talk to that fuckhead on a podcast. So, he gets upset and, we get all back and forth. So, Red, you are so much better to work with than him. I mean,
listen,
won't
they?
You get 5 Klemmers to work with.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Listen, I love working with you. There's no drama with me. Yeah, occasionally I say some stupid things, but I'm a team guy. I come on here. I'll back those things up. I think you guys are like, I think you're probably big and he's Carrie and this is Sex in the City and you guys just couldn't figure it out. And eventually, one of you dies on a bike, has a heart attack. So it is what it is. But I like both of you guys and it's too bad. I hate to see it.
He doesn't like you at all.
No. And hey, listen, not a lot of people do like me. That comes with the territory, but I'm a really nice guy. I always say that, but maybe you and I are just destined to be together here, Manners. We just don't get along with anybody, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, me and VD, we just need a lot of time. It's a toxic relationship.
Let's do better. I'm looking forward to his college football podcast coming out this fall. I'm looking forward to that. I think it's going to be big.
Yeah, that'll be as big as the Justin show. All right, TCB. Also, the next bit of news: Killer Kowalski was desperate to come on and argue with me for kicking John out of Manners Live, but he was in fucking some valley in Canada where it was minus 30 and there was no internet reception. So I'm not ducking Killer Kowalski, but I don't know when that'll happen. So, but it's in the works. And on that theme, John sent out a passive aggressive tweet saying he'd like his likeness removed from the Minifandom logo, which was a piece of artwork done by Warden of the North that was originally for the Socko show, but obviously Cullinane didn't check his inbox and it wasn't used. So the Warden then gave it to us to use for this podcast, and now John's been replaced by Buddy from Kirking Off. So I think that's really nice. I'm a team guy. I even put a rival host on my cover.
I feel really bad. Like this is actually real now. At first I thought this was for show. I thought this was a little stunt maybe. This is not a stunt. As Bomani Jones says, there's no stunts here. So I think this is real. I feel bad for you guys. I hope you guys will figure it out. You guys love hard. You hate harder. I think this will be all okay. And John loves everybody. So I think in due time, you guys will get back together real soon. This is going to go as long as Kirk's feud against Carano. That's how long this is going to go.
I love John, but John loves sneakers, so there's issues there. Next bit of taking care of business. Last show, so some audio surfaced, funny enough, from VD, where I was saying a sentence to Dava from Hull, and I just completely drop out. And I haven't listened to the recording. I don't think I actually dropped out more than maybe once or twice in the whole show. So it wasn't is that right, Red?
It was twice.
Yeah,
And you were making really poignant points
about Montante. Because
it's
funny, when I was recording,
it just failed like that.
When I was recording, I could see the sort of blank look on Dave's face that I don't think he's getting what I'm saying. So maybe I am dropping out. And then, I was blowing smoke up Dave's ass the whole show about he should get into media and all this stuff. Here's a tip for you, Dave. If you're in media and the person you're recording with drops out, what you do is go, I didn't catch that. Can you repeat that? Because the audience wants to hear what the other person has to say. You don't pretend like you've heard it when nothing comes through. So, not too happy with that, but I thought Dave was great.
I thought he was great too. That's good advice. I think that Dave was too nervous in the moment. I mean, he's here with you for the first time. It was intense for him. I could feel the love. You guys were loving each other and loving yourselves. It was. We
had our penises out. It was audio only, so you couldn't see, but we both had our penises out.
You guys were up your own ass.
His
like
big
you read
Portuguese
about.
sausage was out.
Oh boy, it was a good one. I loved every part of it. That was great.
Yeah.
So I was shocked that he didn't help you out. That's not a team move on his part. And now I think VD is taking a victory lap on you, which is a real shame. I don't like that.
You can drop out for 10, 20 seconds in a fucking hour recording. So that's the bit of the TCB. Now, Minifan news. Two things. You alerted me to some audio of Jared Carrabis on the Starting Nine podcast, which is his Dallas Braden baseball show that's been going for almost 5 years. It's amazing because I've never listened to the one of them and it's still going. And he, at the end of that audio, seemed to indicate that his contract is still not sorted out.
Yeah, and so what's this? The Starting Nine podcast. I always get that wrong, but it's the Starting Nine podcast, the last 10 minutes of the most recent episode. I was alerted to it. I made sure I wanted to send it along to you. I don't want anybody to have to sit through 2 hours of that podcast, but there is a good last 10 minutes of it. And it sounded like, I don't know if you heard that, but it sounded like Carrabis got emotional while Dallas Braden was going on his little monologue there. It sounded like Carrabis got emotional. It sounds like, for the first time, it's kind of sinking in that he's not coming back to Barstool.
Great news. I mean, it's context. That discussion comes about because they're like, oh, maybe we'll be back next year recording another Starting Nine, or maybe this is the last one ever. And then they get into it, and it's pretty pathetic. It's a lot of woe is me, Jared, a lot of the sort of whiny Jared we used to get on Fridays.
That's true. And you could hear Dallas Braden was whining, and then he got edited out too. There's something that he said on the podcast that they took out. So it sounds like Dallas is pretty emotional about it and pretty pissed off about it. Carrabis sounds like he's hurt. But if Carrabis would just get into gambling content, I don't think this would be an issue at all. And I know that gambling, like we see these guys all the time, Montante and the others, they're online doing their picks. This is not hard to do, to be some kind of a sharp in the game of gambling. So Carrabis could easily do that. And I think he'd have a contract way ahead of the time. He wanted it in March this past year, but he would have got signed if he was doing any gambling. He did no gambling content for them.
Yeah, he could just pretend to like gambling, even though I can see, even though I actually respect him, he probably has principles. He's probably seen many, many lives destroyed by gambling addiction, as I have. Look, Eric has been pretty clear this year, though, that she's never been fully in Jared's court this whole year, has she?
Absolutely.
I mean, she's always had a little bit of doubt. She's always been nice. She's a consummate professional. But if she's just giving you a little inkling and recorded bits of audio, can you imagine what she's saying behind closed doors about Jared? I mean, remember that interview on Token CEO where she questioned how much he was really doing? I mean,
right.
If you're owning Barstool, you're sort of thinking, what is the value of Jared doing this baseball stuff when we could probably actually, find a retired baseballer, get him to front a show. He could get into gambling and get just as many hits as Jared gets.
Right. Yeah. And I don't understand what the value of Carrabis is if he's not doing gambling content. He's got a few podcasts now, but I don't know what kind of money he actually brings into the company and what he does besides a large following on Twitter. I don't know what that amounts to. And it's a large following for baseball Twitter. So
Dallas was saying, Barstool didn't have a national baseball presence before they came along. I mean, I don't know much about, I'm not in the States, but I'm pretty sure Barstool doesn't really have a national baseball presence.
No, and a lot of those baseball hardos on Twitter, they hate Barstool already. So they automatically are not going to be Barstool fans. So I don't know what how it just sounds like a lot of whining. from content people who don't understand the business side of things and don't get it, especially given that we're, year 2 now into this pandemic. I don't think it just came off as kind of guys just whining about a situation, kind of like we've heard from others at Barstool, where I don't get promoted, I don't get this, they don't give me that, I don't have this funds, and it just sounds like a bunch of bitching and moaning, which, I mean, if we don't have Carrabis, which I don't think we will in 2022, I think that's a good thing, because usually when he comes in, he has no idea what's going on KMS. He has no idea. So Kirk and him they go through the whole show trying to catch Jared up on what they've done so far in the last week or so. So I'm not I'd be happy that if Carrabis does one show where he's talking about how he's leaving Barstool, and then that's the end. That would be great.
Yeah, that would be actually a good recording.
Absolutely.
And he'll get a job somewhere. He'll get a job with Bradfo writing, blogs on EI or something. He'll obviously take a massive pay cut.
Like, yeah, what is that? What would that even?
I don't know the wages in America, so it's hard for me to.
Yeah.
But what, 60K, 70K?
Oh, I don't know how anybody could live on that, man. That's ridiculous.
Well, Kirk certainly couldn't. Read the teacher. Alrighty. Anything else on JC before we move on to you had some thoughts on Montante's podcast?
Yeah. And I want to pick your brain on this, because I don't know if you're going to be upset about this or not, but Montante has had a decent following on Twitter. It's led to Montante's World podcast. I don't know if you are a listener. I've listened at times. I listen to 10 minutes here and there. I listen to 10 minutes here or there. Like, I listen to most of the Dava one, apart from the college football stuff. I skipped that. But I listen to about 10 minutes of it. I mean, Montante's only good in small doses. So yeah, that's my policy. Well, so he's complaining. He's way up Nadeau's ass about everything. He loves Nadeau. He even drove all the way to West Virginia to support him there, which I thought was a little odd. I mean, for that pillow fight, that's a strange drive to make, but that is what it is. But then I made the comment that Nadeau is blocking everybody. He's soft on Twitter. And Montante's response is to call Kirk soft for deleting his Twitter. And I guess my retort to that would be, well, everybody that you have as a follower or a listener of your podcast is a Kirk listener. I don't know that calling Kirk soft is probably the wisest thing or appreciative thing to do if you're Montante. But, I mean, I don't know how you feel, because I know you're a mental health advocate too. So I wanted to bring this up to you and see what your thoughts were.
Yeah, really disappointing comments. And we know Montante's speciality is politically insensitive commentary. And this is just another example of it, shaming Kirk for wanting to preserve his mental health and mental stability. Kirk has said many times he's on Twitter, he's using the show account, but he's just trying to take, I think, a more cautious approach and probably spend less time on the platform. And look, every episode of Montante's World, Mike says about 15 ill-considered things. So, just add this to the list of, buffoonery coming out of that fucking moron's mouth.
It's really sad. It's a shame. I didn't like to see it on Twitter. I had to press him on it to get him on the record. I'm really disappointed. I'm not even mad. I'm just upset. So I really hate to see that, but hopefully Montante apologizes publicly, or maybe he could DM the Kirkman show and maybe he could apologize there too. I don't know, but it's really a shame. I hate to see that.
Aren't Montante and Nadeau the saddest pair of fucking friends? I mean, those two losers. I can see them sitting in some shitty club in 30 or 40 years, both so fucking fat and drunk, talking about the time when Montante drove to Rough and Rowdy to watch him fight someone. I mean, those two are just the biggest losers. They deserve each other.
I always find myself just disappointed in listening to Nadeau. I try to watch his videos. I can't. He's got this weird angle where it's right on top of his head. It's hiding the wig that he's wearing. You can't comment on it because then he blocks you from those things. Him and Montante too, their gambling records are questionable. Nadeau doesn't publicize a lot of his stuff, and I don't think his gambling record's very good. It's not a good relationship. It's really annoying on Twitter, but I mean, it is entertainment. Montante is entertaining, if nothing else, whether he's right or wrong.
Yeah, his impression of me was good. I'll give him that. I said it yesterday.
Yeah, it was very good. I knew you liked that.
Listeners, Red and I thought we'd maybe just take a little bit of a brief look at some of the main events of KMS from 2021. I sort of thought in January, it sort of started off with our fat lug before Justin reading out Julie DeCaro's book. What do you think?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, when it first happened, the instant comments were, is he legally allowed to be doing this? But he just kept going through. It was awesome to have it happen, on the East Coast when you're at work, so you can kind of check in and check out when you're on break and see what Justin is reading. And those words, I mean, it was incredible. I would love to get him to read on his podcast all the time, because the way that he uses words and puts vowels where he thinks they should go, it's beautiful. I love all of that. So it was great to see. I don't know. It was probably happening while you were sleeping, a majority of it, right? So you probably
absolutely. I only saw bits and pieces the next day. Great stuff from Justin. As I said, I don't know how he fucked up his role at KMS from there, because
he was on a heater.
He had a life membership, and I've never heard anyone have that taken away. So pretty bad from Justin. But I have thought, I can imagine after that, I think there was probably some words behind the scenes to the KMS show. Look, can you just stop the lawsuits? Because I think they've tried to keep their nose a little cleaner the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I don't know, like Portnoy talks about, is the juice worth the squeeze? On that one with DeCaro, I don't think he probably thinks that. Kirk obviously doesn't care about those things, and it leads to, I think, what is good content. But when you're, you got Justin getting you in trouble and getting lawsuits going on, and he's representing Barstool, I think that's a scary proposition for Barstool. So it makes sense that maybe they put in the word to say, hey, could you guys knock this stuff off? And it seemed to work for the most part.
And then it sort of rolled into the case. I mean, that seemed to dominate everything. KMS took a back seat quality-wise and content-wise. The case was in the forefront.
Yeah, and did you notice from the best of show, what I noticed the most was how little was actually used from the first quarter of the year, because they were doing the case. So I remember, brings back memories of those shows of it just can't be very good. There's just no way it can be, because they're so consumed with another podcast. And Kirk tried to do the right thing, I guess, in that, tried to give shows anyway. And looking back, I wonder if he has any regret on that. I'm still happy for any content, but those shows were not good. And you could tell when they're not being used in the best of.
Yeah, definitely. And for those listening, coming up, Red and I are going to make some predictions for the year, and we're going to give our Klemmer rankings to every cast member. Yes. So a lot to come. But look, listening to the best of, I did have some sympathy for Steve when Kirk was dressing him down about the microphone thing or the connection thing in the hotel about the pajamas. And this pains me to say it, but I sort of maybe see that as the moment when Steve went, fuck this. I've come all this way. I'm doing 2 podcasts. I've tried my best to get this piece of equipment, and my boss is, getting angry at me because I wanted to eat for the first time in the day. Like, if I was Steve, I'd probably think, well, fuck this guy. Well,
yeah, and so his lease and his apartment that he had was probably due up in July, right? So he probably was contacted about that pretty early, where he said he wasn't going to continue. Also, when you factor in that he had to get that van, and he had to get that souped-up van and get that thing ready, that takes a while from the ordering process to when you can actually pick it up. So you can't tell me. I mean, Steve probably from that week on had set plans and laid the groundwork for leaving KMS, which showed in his output and effort, because you could tell he was checked out. There were jokes about it, and Kirk would even joke about it, but that was serious, man. Steve wanted no part of that show anymore. Wanted no part. And the show has been much better off because of it, because now Cullinane's in there and he actually cares. So you know what I'm saying, Menners? That's going to be a theme of tonight, is I'm going to be praising Cullinane the entire time. You're going to have to deal with that, sir.
I like Dave. He's a great guy.
I don't know if you like him. I don't know if you do.
I really do like him. And I just think, listening back to that audio where Kirk's dressing Steve down, I'm like, Kirk, you can't even, plug a USB microphone, and you can't even plug in a microphone to your phone. You can't criticize Steve because you're fucking lazy when it comes to tech. I mean, if I was producing Kirk, I would say, Kirk, we're going to have a tech afternoon, and in 1 hour, I could show him how to plug in a microphone to his phone and his computer, and the problem would be solved.
He's the talent, though, Menners. He's the talent. Like,
you got to whip talent into shape. You've got to whip talent into shape sometimes.
No, but that's Steve. Steve can't do that. If you were the producer, you could do that because you're a little bit older. You're a little bit more seasoned. Whatever level Chris would put you on, you'd be on that level where you could do that. Steve couldn't do that. I'm not going to give Steve any credit or fight for him, but I mean, that's what we love from Kirk Minahan, right? Is when he gets his producer on there and he just absolutely browbeats that motherfucker till the
I mean,
ground.
Kirk said to me, find a new act when I was getting stuck into Steve, and I'm saying to Kirk, okay, you know, we've heard it for 5 years. You know, plug in a microphone now.
Listen, if you can't yell at a producer of a podcast or a radio show, who can you yell at, man?
I'm saying you can yell at him, but not for that.
Okay. Well, he screwed up. He didn't bring the piece, and then he didn't go try and find it when he could have. He got in his jammies. That's what I love. That he's got to do.
I'm not relitigating this. I'm not relitigating this.
I'm just saying he didn't care. He was checked out. And then he gave Kirk some really terrible stories, and Kirk was right. Then I have to dance for you. Now I got to dance. Just give it to Kirk, and I'll fix it. Well, he wasn't going to fix it. Now he's just going to shit on Steve, which was much needed. Love it every time. So keep shitting on a producer, and as long as it's not Dave Cullinane, that's all that I ask.
It's good sport. And that led into Steve quitting just before Madawaska, the greatest episode of the year. I think it's the episode I've listened to the most. I've listened to it 4 or 5 times. And I guess I'm surprised Kirk was that blindsided by it, because from the outside, we knew he was checked out. I mean, we said it every week on your rundown and whatever I was doing.
Yep, absolutely. You could see this thing coming. It was amazing. I think he was more shocked because the way that Steve had said it too, he said he was taking a leave. So then he left the door open where he was going to be there. And then in the span of a couple of minutes, it was, no, I'm actually leaving. I'm not re-upping on my lease. I'm going. So it wasn't even a leave he was taking. He was quitting the show.
He was scared to say it, which was funny. Yeah. He should have just said first sentence. Not like, I think he shouldn't have gone, I need some mental time. He should have just said, I want to move on. Right. But anyway, he got there eventually.
How long do you think he was planning this, though, Manners? Like, how long do you think he had put these wheels in motion and was actually serious?
I think from the beginning of coronavirus, I think he was already checked out. I think COVID, he even said it. If you go back to COVID, he said, wouldn't be a good time to be looking for a job. So I think after about 6 months, he knew probably wasn't right for him. But obviously, as soon as COVID hits, he wasn't going to start doing job hunting. So, yeah, I think pretty quickly he checked out. And I said, I think when I first did an Aussie Minifan show, you wait, he'll just walk in one day and walk out on Kirk. And that's pretty much what happened.
That's what he did. He left him, and he didn't even, wasn't even able to do the 2 weeks because him and Kirk parted ways. Didn't help them out on that Madawaska live show, which I think hurt them in the long run. Hurt them later on when it came to that 29K too. So I think Steve, in a weird way, also has to take some responsibility for that 29K because it set the wheels in motion for Justin to then continue on with his contacts at Madawaska and got us where we were in the summertime with it. So yeah, but at the same time, having Cullinane step in here, a producer who cares. It's not like Cullinane's a genius. He's a sweet dummy, and I love that sweet dummy. But he cares about the show, and he's putting in effort. And you see that when it comes to the end of the year podcast, the year in review. I know that Harrison did that thing, but Dave was a part of that. I think those are two guys who really care about KMS, and that's what you get. You get a great product because of it.
Yeah, you do. What about the live shows as a whole? I was sort of reflecting on it, and obviously I'm a long way away, but Madawaska seemed to be a little bit disappointing, although everyone that went had a great time at the show itself. Then Socko 1 and 2, the actual shows themselves seemed a little bit underwhelming. I kind of feel like this year was a down year for their live performances. I don't really blame Kirk. The instability around the production team, the ineptitude of some of the production team contributed to that. But I think 2022 needs to be a bounce back year in terms of quality of the live shows, because I felt the people that went were lukewarm about them.
Really? Okay. So I really I heard that feedback from Madawaska as far as people being underwhelmed with a lot of what the other things around the show were going to be. But then I really enjoyed the Socko shows. I thought those were incredible. I thought the people were amazing. The shows were awesome, but you're in there, you're there. So it's different for those that are listening just on the podcast. But I really enjoyed those shows. But I do agree that I think the mental illness of this show, whether it is Kirk or Mike or Steve, I think has probably played a factor. And you have that overturn of these people in and out, and Justin's in and out. The one consistent is Dave Cullinane, who I think will add to those live shows because he's a sweet dummy who's not going to get mentally ill and freak out. He just can't do it. He doesn't have it in him. He is smoke on top of water, Menners. You can't touch him. Okay, so I think Cullinane will get this thing done. But this is.
I hope so. But it's where we miss like Blind Mike, because you got to say at least he would before live events do Mike and the Minifans on a Friday, and I just felt like it was just there was a lack of attention to detail. There was no real build up. And they came and went a bit quickly. Not saying that that's not fine, but I just think 2022, the live shows can get to the next level.
I agree with that. I think that with Wilbur, I think the Wilbur shows will be much better off having avoided January here and moving into the summer. I think that's a big thing because it's only getting worse here in the States right now. So I think that's a great move. I think the Wilbur shows are going to benefit from it. And the Sacco shows are great. And I don't know what else they're going to be able to follow through on, because I think if they complete the Wilbur shows, Mississippi really going to happen though?
I'm going if it does.
So I hope that it does, but something tells me too, like the Wilbur, I think it also completes his contract or at least those obligations. So I don't know how many more live shows he has to do. And my theory is that this is the last year of KMS. So I think 2022 is the end. So I think the live shows
better fucking make it to a
you better.
Show then.
You better.
Obviously, other big events of the year, the 29K, Kirk taking a break at the end. Anything you want to add on the 29K issue?
I think that Justin learned a lot from it, but I think Justin is right. There is an instance of Dustin taking advantage of the situation, but I mean, at the end of the day, you got to shoot your shot on that. He was able to get that 29K that he wanted. It sucks that Justin was in that position. And it sucks that the show had to do that, but it led to some great content too. I mean, that entire week of 29K was one of the best weeks of KMS ever. It was hilarious every single day, every update on Twitter. It was stunning to listen to that podcast and hear that figure. It was beautiful. And to hear Dave kind of worming his way and getting into as another snake moment with Dustin on the phone. That was great too. So, I mean, that was awesome, man. I know Kirk and those guys don't agree with that because it was also 29K, but man, that was an awesome week of shows.
Oh yeah, that was great content. Absolute fantastic content. And Kirk taking a break again. I think we've seen sort of in the second half of the year to preserve his sanity. He's kind of insulated himself a bit from the Minifan world. Montante obviously with the Twitter thing, but just generally, I still think he's, a great host, a great talent, but he's just insulated himself. And, if he needs to do that to make himself feel better, that's fine. I'd love to have a go at being his therapist. I'm not qualified. But
you think about it, Matters. Like you just thinking about Montante and how crazy that one situation is. Montante is a guy who advocated to get on the YouTube channel. I believe Cullinane had put him on there at one point.
Yeah, he interviewed that football guy or whatever. I can't remember his name.
You know what I mean? Like something as small as that was given to him, and not weeks later, because Nadeau is buddies with him and he's talking to him and DMing with him. So Nadeau is great and awesome now. Now Kirk is soft and not because he's not on Twitter and he doesn't talk to Montante or whatever it is. And you just call the guy soft. Like to me, like just so unappreciative of anything you were given. It's true. We were lucky to be able to get on a YouTube channel. Like we felt like I don't understand that mindset at all. It's so strange to me. But I mean, these kids these days, Manners, they just don't appreciate what they have.
Yeah. Also a bit of TCB from yesterday. Davis said Anal was going live on the KMS network. That was false. It was a pre-recorded show from a week ago. So that quelled my anger when I realized they hadn't given the least talented Minifan Adam access to the channel.
But you know what? You got to give that up. I mean, you've been so mean to Ned about this show. It's a good show. You've been giving those guys
I listen every time. I listen every time.
Low scores. You give them 30s.
It's a really sleepy show. I mean, you got Adam starting the show talking about some job interview. I mean, it's not for everybody. I actually like them and LK, so I'll listen. But anyway, that's just a bit of TCB. Anything else you want to sort of say about the year before? I know you've got your best callers and best parody songwriters, but any events from the year?
I'm curious how you feel about that. But overall, I think the show has only gotten better. I'm excited. Like I said, I think this is the last year of it. Predictions for 2022 would be also that I think Carrabis is done. We get more.
All right,
Chris
give me your
Klemmer.
predictions. Yep.
All right, we get more Chris Klemmer. Okay, the rise of Klemmer gets better and better. He pisses off people. People love him. Either way, you have a strong feeling about him. I think Blind Mike he slides back a little bit here. He gets a little bit down in the dumps, but then he picks it up later in the year. Dave Cullinane continues to be a star. I think Case season 2 is going to crush it and be better than season 1. Okay, so you put Cullinane in any role that Steve Robinson had, and then Cullinane flips it and makes it that much better because KMS is better. The Case is going to be better. The end of the year in review podcast was better. Everything gets better with Dave Cullinane. So I think the year is going to go out on a high. I think the show is going to go out on a high note this year, but it will be the last year of KMS 2022.
Wow. All right, I got my 2022 predictions. I'm not so confident, by the way, that the Case will be better than what Steve put out last year. So I hope it is. But fingers crossed. I agree. I think they'll go out on a high. I actually think this will be the best year of the show ever, 2022. David was saying, 2020 was the high point. I think 2022 will be the high point. I think Chris Klemmer will definitely take mental time at some point during the year. So hope he gets through that okay. I think Kirk will eventually make me the network director, the KMS network director. So I think that'll happen in 2022. I also think I'll make it to the US and to a live KMS show. And finally, I think Justin will end up working at Walmart or one of those big box stores you have in the States. And doing really well there, and he'll be, maybe he'll be a store manager in a couple of years. So I think Justin's got a big future. Wendy's, Kmart, Target,
You're selling short.
All those
this podcast
places.
Is going to be a monster. This is where he's going to shine. This is his wheelhouse. Star Wars is everything he does. He does voices. He can do this thing on YouTube. It's going to be great. Okay, this is going to launch him to another level. So I think Justin will get a little bit more run on KMS too. I think he'll be coming back a little bit. Yeah, you'll see. I think this will be a big year for Justin too. So I think, and also too, props to Dave Cullinane for doing what Steve Robinson could never do, which is keep you off of the YouTube mentors. He's been able to do that this entire time. It's stunning. So that's another thing that he's better at.
Fuck off.
Well, I'm
needling me. Why are you needling me about
I'm not
it?
Needling
you know what annoys me.
I'm just saying you do have to admire from that angle that he's been.
What's
really
there to admire about that? What's there to admire about ostracizing one of the major network contributors?
That's true.
What's the point of turning away someone that's offering to help you, turning away someone with professional experience that wants to for no money, for no personal gain, just because they're a fan of the show. Help, sure. And you turn it away, you just turn your back on them. Maybe Cullinane thinks he's on a level higher than me. I don't know.
He might be on a higher level than you, and I'm not going to make a short joke. I wouldn't do that, but I will say this. I think you guys are going to figure it out, and I think in 2022 you will also make it up on that YouTube channel. I believe that. So I believe I'm a hopeful guy. I'm a glass half full guy. I think you guys will figure that out too. You guys will all be friends.
I like Carl. He's a nice guy. Just doesn't
really
like me. He just doesn't like me. Doesn't want me on the network.
I know.
Doesn't want me involved with the show.
You never really say anything bad about him either. So I appreciate that too. I think you're a really nice guy. I think you're a victim in this, Manners.
Definitely.
So. Yeah.
All right. Who are your best callers and best parody songwriters of 2021?
Well, obviously, John Amos was featured in the best of, but it is true. Every single time he called, he crushed it. He was great. His first call, especially, I loved. So I got John Amos in the number 1 spot. I've got my Mount Rushmore here. So John Amos is there. President Trump obviously is in that number 2 spot. Sopranos guy is still there. I think he can figure out a way to make this more interesting with Imperioli too. So I think Sopranos guy is my Hall of Famer. He's in number 3. And then my number 4 is Andrea, who is Carrabis' girlfriend, who called in and she started to DJ herself while she was
high
talking
on pancakes. I'm just getting high eating pancakes.
The natural heavies. Yeah. That was a great caller. That was a great caller. So at least that was like the one part that added to it where guys could call in and give Carrabis shit. So that was at least a good part of that. But yeah, those are my 4 callers. So who do you have in your 4?
About the same. I don't have any. I mean, Trump
You're
and
not
Amos.
big into the callers, are you?
No, I am. But I'm a bit biased because, in the best of, there was put them together. There's 15 Trump and Amos calls. So I've just heard all of them And I haven't got through all of Tim's, but consistency-wise, Trump and Amos are number 1 and 2. It's been a big, bad year for Blind Mike's daddy. Obviously, that's the year he went back to the field. I know he wasn't a caller, but they called him. But I think Scott Spears, that guy who had Bill Cosby on his radio station.
That was a good one.
Spears had an answer for every Kirk question. I mean,
that's true.
And they were good answers. Like they were, So Scott Spears is a strong caller, I guess.
And John from the Diner, too. Don't forget about John from the Diner.
Yeah, I wasn't as hot on him as everyone
really?
else. I mean, I want to go to the diner. The food sounds good, but
yeah. He said he had something we've never seen there before. I don't know what that means, but I mean, it's a diner, John. I don't think you're gonna surprise us too much, but I'm looking forward to it, whatever it is.
Yeah. Parody songwriters, you got any?
Oh, parody songwriters. Okay, so again,
Did we get any this year?
I've got top 4. We got. So this is curious. Parody singers. I've got.
This is Tim from Canton level note taking from you, Red.
Listen, I
record keeping.
I've got 2 pages of notes here. I like to do rankings. Mount Rushmore top 4 list is totally fine. That works with me.
VD can't even write, so it's much better working. With he's literate.
There's no way he can write. I question whether he can read, but he's a really nice guy, and I like him. So number 1, Steve's a liar guy. Number 1, Steve's a liar guy.
Yeah.
Consistently, even though he doesn't have the same output that he once did, nobody actually does. I think Steve's a liar guy crushes it. He's my number 1. Number 2, rock opera. He always delivers, especially with that parody of the Coco Cabana with Carrabis. I thought that was awesome. Gig, my number 3, is a talented artist. Okay, but he creates comedy on Twitter and delivers in this one song offering. And then my number 4 is actually Carano. I'm a big man here. I'm going to admit when I'm wrong. I thought Carano had a great song. What did he parody? Don't Dream It's Over. I love that. He had a great hook on that song. So those are my 4. Steve's a liar guy, rock opera, gig, and then Carano. Top 4.
I like that Carano, and I like the original Crowded House song. So good effort from Carano. Warden in the North is my guy, and I think the stuff he put together for Socko was excellent. So he goes into my parody song writers of the year.
I respectfully disagree, but that's okay. We can agree to disagree here. That's fine. I'm fine with that.
Alrighty.
I can't ride with manners with that. All
right. 2 things left: the Klemmer rankings. And then I've got 2 movie reviews. But should we start with the Klemmer rankings? We'll just go one at a time. All right. So for those unfamiliar, it's out of 5, the Klemmer rankings?
Yes. We go out of 5. Gig has hooked us up with some nice artwork to go along with that. So we've got some popcorn buckets with Klemmer's face on there. So we've got out of 5 Klemmers. We're going to rank people. Do you want me to go first or you go ahead?
Well, let's just go one at a time. We'll go with Kirk first. What's your ranking?
Okay, so I've got him at 4.2 Klemmers. I think he had a great year. I think he's got room for improvement and growth. I can tell that he's enjoying himself. He's got good relationship with Cullinane going. I think he's got a little sweet spot here. So I think he can get to 5 Klemmers. I got him at 4.2.
Excellent. Well, I give Kirk 4.6, and I take the 0.4 off because his failures in leadership roles. I think that's the only area of improvement. But I love Kirk. I don't think he'll be listening 53 minutes into this recording.
Probably not.
Unless he's running and he can't find the skip button on his iPhone. But if he is listening, he still is someone I look up to. He's still someone I admire. He is still somebody that it's just a great guy. Just a great guy, 4.6.
But he's just not a good leader. He's not a good leader.
No, and I'm hoping actually when I'm with Kirk, I'm thinking probably he'll put me up in the spare room for a couple of weeks when I'm over there for a live show. We can work on this over breakfast, having a coffee, or he can have his little hot chocolate. And I can sort of work, day by day, tip by tip.
You're always there ready to any consultations. You're ready to work with them. So
me and Harry can have breakfast together. It'll be fun.
Oh, that would be nice.
Steve, all right. What's your Klemmer ranking?
Klemmer ranking for Steve. I was kind here for Steven. I gave him a 1.1 for Steve. You got 1.1.
I gave him a 1 flat. Go on.
Yeah, I didn't want to go just 1 flat. I gave him a 1.1 because I do appreciate everything that he's done, but he just did not care about the show, and he probably never really cared about the show, and that showed with his effort and output and what did it to the show. So God bless, Godspeed. I feel bad. You know what I feel bad? I don't know if you've seen those pictures he's posted while he's in the wind, but the wind is doing a number on that hairline, my friend. Holy cow. As somebody who loves my hair, I appreciate my hairline. It is not good, Menners. That wind is blowing that hairline back, my friend. Not good.
Not good. Yeah, I give him a 1, and I give him the 1 point just for quitting that episode. I like the fact that he quit on air, and yes. 1 point for leaving. Mike, all right, blind Mike. Now I'll go first. Please. I'm giving him 5 Klemmers. I think it was a perfect year for Mike on the KMS show. He did not disappoint, and obviously this has nothing to do with the Blind Mike project and everything else, because it'd be minus 400 if you took Craig into account. But his 5 Klemmers, he was perfect on KMS. He nailed every big moment. The 29K, the reaction, it was just spot on. Perfect year. 5 Klemmers, blind Mike.
Okay, so I'm gonna get a little tricky with the math here, but I'm giving Mike a 1.1 Klemmers. And I'll be able to fill in the rest of them to Dave Cullinane. But here's the reason. Here's the thing. Mike's
1.1 out of 5.
1.1 out of 5.
It was so funny.
But Mike was good on the show. But you know why he's good on the show is because of Dave Cullinane. Dave Cullinane comes in.
Bullshit.
All of a sudden, the little brother, Mike, he becomes big brother, gets a little bit more confidence. And Dave's a great teammate, and he's self-deprecating and makes Mike feel comfortable, gives him confidence. I think Dave Cullinane is a big reason for Mike's success this year so far. So I'm giving him a 1.1.
That's bullshit. That is way too low. You need to revisit that. 1.1.
But this
Can
is
you at least break it up into 2 halves then? Because, pre-Cullinane and post-Cullinane.
No, I can't do that. But I'm giving him 1.1 Klemmers because of what I'm giving to Cullinane. So if we want to jump to Cullinane, we can do that.
All right, go to Cullinane. Well,
okay, so out of 5, I give him a 3.9. So I think Dave Cullinane and Mike combined is a 5. But I think Dave Cullinane
a 5 out of 10.
Well, yeah, but
so they're just average.
They're a great 5, okay, and they're great teammates. I'm just giving Dave Cullinane 3.9 because again, everything he touches, and usually that's what Steve has touched first, but everything that Steve has created, Cullinane has made better every single time. He responds every single time. What did
Mike do to you to deserve that?
No, but what I'm saying with Mike is his newfound confidence is a lot of what Cullinane has done. Now, if he continues this and builds on it, then that's on Mike. But right now, everything that Mike is what Dave Cullinane's created. That's my argument. I think that's a terrible argument.
It's a terrible argument. Okay, Cull. So out of 5 Klemmers, I'm giving Cull 2.5. I think he's been perfectly average so far. He's delivered excellent podcasts, which is his job. So he meets that criteria, but I don't think he's gone one step beyond that. I think, he's perfectly average so far, 2.5 out of 5. The shows have been excellent.
That's really low.
Why?
For as good as the show has been.
Because he's the producer. He's not he's not. So you mark him for the whole thing, and the whole thing has been a fucking train wreck. Apart from great audio, we've had great shows.
Great. Yeah, the great.
Yeah, but there's nothing around it. The live shows have been a disaster. He almost sent Kirk to the poorhouse.
I don't think so. And that's
the merchandise has been no good. The community's dying. The network is at an all-time low.
I agree on the network, but the network isn't Dave Cullinane's fault. They've got far less people working on the show. They've got to find interns. But they got to get global pandemic
making excuses for Dave. It's fucking excuse maker for Dave. That's all you are.
I'm sorry. You're just going to forget about a global
He's
pandemic.
He's had 6 months to find an intern. He's had 6 months to find an intern. I mean, how many people would love to work on a Barstool show? I mean, I don't know what he's doing, but if he can't find an intern, where's he looking?
Everybody in the States has COVID, Menners. What do you want from him? Okay.
95% of it can be done remotely, making clips, producing shows on StreamYard. There is no excuse. I mean, Justin, the most incompetent person, was an intern there for almost 2 years.
And he was
so I would love some chick to do it, diversify it, let's stop the sausage fest in studio or even whatever. So Cullinane 2.5.
Okay.
Right, Chris Klemmer. Well, do you want to go Chris next? How many Klemmers?
3.1 Klemmers for the Klemmer. 3.1. Again, I love everything that he does. Every time he ends the week, which, by the way, I hope they continue the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, because I think they do a great job of packing it in that week. But when you bookend with Klemmer, when you end your week with Klemmer, it's only good stuff, because people either love it or hate it. And you get to read all the comments on Twitter and the subreddit. It's fantastic. He angers many, but everybody feels passionate about him. He is Alex Reamer on Thursdays on KNC. And that means that people say, oh, I'm not going to listen, blah, blah, blah. They all listen, and they all love it. They love the Klemmer. I see it in the DMs again all the time. There are a bunch of these guys that are going to privately diss Klemmer. They love Klemmer. They listen every single time. So I think he's doing great. I think 3.1 Klemmers is fair.
Agree. I thought it was so funny when he was on this show and I asked him with a straight face, did you think Matt Carano was gay when you met him? And he answered the question deadpan serious. Like, I was serious. Made me laugh. I like Chris. I give him 3.5. He's an above average panelist. He's getting better all the time. You know why I mark Klemmer highly? Because he's diligent. He turns up. He's read everything. He's heard every bit of Minifan content. He's in tune with Kirk. I think, every show he's got more confident and better. And was, he's a bit of an asshole underneath it all. He's got a bit of a cunt about him. And,
yes,
as a cunt, Red, you could recognize that.
I appreciate that.
You sniff out cunts on other people.
I love it. I love it. Like, there's unearned arrogance a little bit. I love that. That's great. People are always feeling something, whether they're happy or angry with him, but they're always feeling something. That's exactly what you want from somebody who's coming in, who's unpaid. Obviously, I mean, he works hard too. He's got podcasts on podcasts he could be working on. So I think Klemmer, the Clem Dog's going to have a big year, big time.
Great. I think Minifandom, we should also do a little bit of reaction to Klemmer's show, like a once a week sort of assessment of how it's going.
I'm excited about that.
It's going to turn into like a 4-hour show. We get through KMS, then it's reviewing Boba Fett, Justin's Boba Fett show, and then it's Clem Dogs.
We're never going to stop. This is going to be ridiculous.
Yep, suck it, VD. All right, next one, Jared Carrabis, 1.1. I'm giving him. I thought, he started the year. I thought he started the year okay, and then he just dived. So I'm giving him 1.1.
Yeah, I gave him a 0.7. I think he didn't do a great job of giving up everything in his personal life and being comfortable, answering all the questions that Kirk had. And then he also didn't listen to the show and didn't, stay in tune to the world. So for me, he's not a great second chair because he just doesn't know what's going on. And he's too busy with other stuff. So, I hope he's well. Take care, Carrabis. Hopefully you're not on the show in 2022. That's all I hope.
Yep, good luck with the Red Sox. He'll probably get a job in the Red Sox PR department, as Felger says. Basically works there anyway, so he may as well get a paycheck from them.
And NBC Boston, I think, is going away, right? So that's going to be that sports content is going to go somewhere else. So that's not going to work for him. But there's got to be something Red Sox related that he can do here locally. Has to.
And if John Henry dropped his pants and said, "Jared, swallow this load," Jared would do it. No problem.
He would absolutely do it happily with a smile on his face.
Eat it up. I can lick it up. All righty. Justin, what's your rating? What's your Klemmer rating?
Of the interns, I still have him at a 1.5. Now, it's a high ranking for an intern. I'm a tough grader.
We're close on that. I'm 1.3.
Okay. I think it was unfortunate that he didn't have the entire year, because I think he really would have grown into that role of Kirk, calling to him and have him come over to the microphone and say something. I think there was a lot of that, Chris Curtis, when he was going through that phase, when he was hammered off his ass. I think there was a lot of good stuff there to work off of Justin. So it's, job not done, but I think he might be coming back in studio this year. So we'll see. But 1.5 Klemmers for Justin.
I said at the beginning of the year, I thought it'd be a career year for Justin. And I'm just checking, has he unblocked? Oh, okay. Oh no, I'm still blocked. So fuck him. We won't be doing our review. Little cunt. Maybe he'll unblock me. I mean, he was in the middle of a game when we
that's true.
him, so he's probably gone back to jerking off over animated Boba Fett images. But 1.3. As I said, he started off, looking like a career. It's like you heard my baseball analogy. It's like in April he pitched fucking like Manny. What was the pitcher? The Hall of Famer for the Red Sox,
Pedro.
Pedro, yeah. In April, he was pitching like Pedro. And then by fucking September, he was pitching like I'm thinking of a really bad Red Sox pitcher, the left armor that they traded. Anyway, whatever.
You
just bad pitcher.
That's my favorite.
Just any bad pitcher. So Justin 1.2. Harrison, all right. Harrison, I'm giving 3.1. I'm giving Harrison a really high mark because what I like about Harrison, he's not a fucking star seeker. He wants to be in the background, do his pretty little drawings, cut up audio, learn to produce the case. He doesn't want any profile. He's a very humble guy. So 3.1. I think he's the model intern.
I agree with that. I think, I've got him as a 1.2 right now, but I think that's going to get higher and higher because I think he's the best intern they've had. Overall, I think, the Year in Review podcast was the best thing they've ever done when it comes to Year in Review. And that was multiple people working on that thing, whether that was Steve and Mike that first year, DEC as well with his, and then with Justin doing it as well. I think Harrison has done the best. I know Dave helped him out a little bit probably, but we're going to give that win to Harrison. I think he's an incredible guy. I think he does great artwork. I think his T-shirts are on point. So I think it's going to be a big year for him. I love Harrison. Good dude.
Good. Well, they were our Klemmer marks for the year. Well done, everybody.
Well done.
Mike got my highest mark above Kirk, so take that to the bank.
Yeah, and again, I think that's a little too high. I think you're not counting in what Cullinane's doing for him, but we can agree to disagree on that too. That's fine.
All righty. Anything else you want to say about the show? I just want to quickly talk about 2 movies.
Oh, okay. So I think that's all I got. Again, I had my predictions there.
We nailed it. We nailed it.
We did it. Well
this
done.
is the best show talking about KMS's
the
year.
Very best. The very best.
So I finished the Expendables series last night, watched Expendables 3, and I think the fact that everyone had said that it's not that good got me in the right mindset because I loved Expendables 3 because I love Mel Gibson. I'm a Mel Gibson guy, obviously, big Australian connection there. He spent a lot of time in Sydney. I love Crazy Mel. I love Crazy Eyes. I don't care if he's anti-Semitic and racist off the screen. On screen, Crazy Mel is engaging. He's fun.
That's what I love about you. You separate the art from the artist, Menners. That's what I love about you. I love those movies. Nobody has high expectations for them. They're all just built off of 80s action movies, concepts, and those stars. It's perfect. I've never had a bad experience because they know what they are. They know what they want to be. It's like the John Wick movies. Like, exactly what you're going to get from those things. So to me, it's always an A+ when you watch those movies. So I love the Expendables. I think there's nothing that Stallone does that I'm not going to watch for sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, it feels like to me all 3 movies were kind of the same, just sort of slightly different. But that's like every 80s action movies. There's some bad guy and you're going to kill him and, he kills a girl. It's amazing. So loved Expendables 3. I haven't seen the John Wick series. And I sort of put them on my list last night because they came up after Expendables. So what do you think? Should I watch them?
Yes. All 3 I've been really pleased with. Probably I like the second one the most. Number 1 might be ranked number 3 for me, but that's not because it's not great. 2 and 3 really come through. Halle Berry is fantastic in 3, by the way. She is wonderful. So there's a lot of good stuff with those movies. I love every time they hit the right notes. They're well aware of what they're doing, and they're you can tell it's kind of making fun of itself too at the same time. But it's really good action scenes. It's awesome. Highly recommend.
Well, that'll be my viewing for the next few days. And then final review, and I'm just doing these reviews now to troll Chris because he's about to start a movie podcast. But the Dune review, it's not hard to talk about, go and see a movie and talk about it. The Dune, I saw Dune yesterday.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I have. I loved it. I had very low expectations though. So I don't know. I was not into the books. I'm just getting into that movie. But I had low expectations, but I loved it. How did you feel about it?
I again just wanted to go to a movie and get out of the house. So I sort of give it 4 out of 5 Klemmers if we're ranking it.
Yes, please.
Just a really good sci-fi film. I love the tone of it. It had a really interesting tone. And I'm intrigued. I want to go and see the next one. I remember when the original Dune came out back in the 80s or the 70s. It was a terrible movie, I think. So that's my Dune review. I think if you're into that kind of science fiction genre, it's good, but I like it's an interesting pace. There's a lot of sort of slower moments of it. Again, it's long. I am getting a bit sick of this need for every movie now to be 2.5 hours or longer. I'm just like, can I go to a movie and be done in 2 hours? Not be busting for a piss the last half an hour.
Yeah, I mean, I felt that kind of I love the James Bond movie we talked about earlier, and Spider-Man.
Seeing that tomorrow for the third time.
Yeah, beautiful. So and those are similar length, and it doesn't have to be shorter for me, but if it was shorter, I wouldn't mind that either. It seems like like you said, every movie now is 2.5 hours. They feel like they have to hit that mark, and that makes the home viewing experience that much better when it gets up to 2.5 hours. But you got to have the right system. If you have Dune on the right TV and the right surround sound system, it's amazing to watch. But you got to have that right setup in your house to do it. Otherwise, you go to the theater because it looks amazing.
Truth. Yeah, I'm going to see No Time to Die for a third time. I think tomorrow to
attaboy.
Wrap things up. I just need to see it a third time.
I think that's the right move.
Beauty. All right.
Well, let us know how many Klemmers you give it. Okay.
I will. All right. Well, anything else you want to add to the listeners before we sign off? I hope you've enjoyed Holiday Podcast number 2. Number 3 is coming with Tim and Canton. It's lined up for tomorrow, so it could be 3 in 3 days.
I think you're crushing it. I can't wait for next week when we get back to getting those 3 days, get that content going. Excited to see what happens and who screws up. But I think hopefully maybe things that you've said this week, I think are going to play a part in maybe that first episode. We'll see. I'm looking forward to it.
I've been supportive of the main show. It is interesting though, when they do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it does actually mess with the Minifandom recording schedule because it's kind of hard to slot in between them.
Sure.
So when they do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, more likely it's just easy to sort of review all 3 at the end.
And that's true. I wish they would have consulted with us on this, but that's, that is what it is. Maybe next time I'll talk to Dave about it, see if we can work something.
I'm a team player. This podcast is malleable. It's flexible.
You asked for very little.
I asked for very little. I just want total control of the network and to stay in Kirk's house for 2 weeks. That's all.
See nothing wrong with that. You're a humble guy. You're just here to serve. That's it.
All right. On that note, see you, Red. You're 5 Klemmers.